Good morning, Villa fans, and welcome to a Transfer Talk episode again. This time, I want to talk about realistic backup striker options for this man in your picture, Ollie Watkins. Obviously, Villa are in desperate need of reinforcements on the front line. We haven't really replaced sort of Jean Duran. Obviously, Rashford came in and did a really good job for us, but couldn't keep hold of him. So we're looking at some backup options there. We've got obviously Zeppi Redmond, which we haven't seen in pre-season yet. I'm not sure if he's on the US tour. And then Daniel Marlon probably kicks in as our next option as a backup striker. But we've got a hell of a lot of games next season in the Europa League, Premier League, domestic cups. 60 plus perhaps if we're going to go deep into most of these competitions. So I wanted to sort of jump on and talk about realistic backup striker options. Now, we all know that Villa are dealing with the SCR side of things, which means that we have, we need to reduce wages. It's not about selling players. It's about reducing the wages. So we can't afford to bring in players like these guys here. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who, yes, is a free agent, probably would want a hefty signing on fee, was on about 100 grand a week at Everton, would be probably looking for about the same again. I get the feeling that he will be wearing the claret and blue, but it won't be Aston Villa. I think he's going to either end up at Burnley or more likely West Ham. And West Ham have recently got rid of Danny Ings, Michael Antonio. So they're in need of a striker. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin would probably fit into that environment and probably would get paid that 100 grand plus a week as well. So for me, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because of the wage issue, the injury record that he's got, and I just don't really like him as a striker too much. It's not that terrible, but I just think the wage is going to be too much that we can. And the same goes for the second guy here, Nicholas Jackson, Samuel L. Jackson, whatever you want to call him, Michael Jackson. For me, massive no-no. First of all, 60 to 80 million transfer fee. We're not going to be splashing the cash on that. And then he's probably on 100k plus at Chelsea already. He's going to be looking to match that or better that. So we're looking at that sort of side of things as well. Will he settle for a backup striker role? Not too sure. At the moment, he looks like he's third choice at Chelsea, so he will be moving on. But I don't want him to come to Villa. Absolutely not. Not for me, Nicholas Jackson. And then the last guy on your picture is obviously Samu from FC Porto. Doing lots of bits in the Portuguese league, getting lots of rave reviews, young, up and coming, definitely fits the right sort of profile. But he's just broken into sort of Porto's team, and he left. I think it was Atletico. He left to join Porto, and he wanted first team football. And you think he's going to come to Villa and be happy with a rotation or a backup option to Ollie Watkins? I can't see that happening. And again, transfer fee. Everything is crazy at the moment in terms of transfer fees. You're probably looking about 100 million for this guy at the moment. It's just the way things are looking, and then the wages on top of that. So we can't be looking at those sorts of targets. Calvert-Lewin, no. Even if he's free, no. Jamie Vardy, same reason, no, because he's free, but again, wages, and he would want some first team football. So for me, no. Callum Wilson, I think West Ham are in talks with him, probably get him and Dominic Calvert-Lewin together. And there weren't very many other sort of free agent sort of strikers available. So I've done a little bit of research. I went down a rabbit hole yesterday on Transfer Market and having a look around, trying to find, some talent. I think we're going to be looking at players in the young up and coming, section, because I think that's where we've looked predominantly in the summer with these 19-year-old signings. I think we're going to look at someone almost like the profile of like a Jean Duran. I mean, Jean Duran's signing came out of nowhere. Chicago Fire. Nobody kind of heard about Jean Duran. He wasn't on the radar, and all of a sudden it was kind of done. I've got the feeling that this backup striker, whoever we sign, is going to come out of left field. It's going to be a name that nobody kind of knows. It's going to be under the radar, and all of a sudden it's going to be someone. And, I've been looking around. I don't want to scour the whole of Europe. I'm not looking at a 19-year-old Brazilian to come in here and take 6 to 8 months to settle in and learn the language, culture, and all that sort of stuff. You want players who are already playing in the United Kingdom, already got maybe, they're used to English football, language as well, that can come in and sort of play a part, because they are going to be, they will have to play a part. Ollie Watkins has been incredibly robust and durable for us. And, he's always been fit. Obviously, he's always been available, but we can't rely on him to stay fit and then have nothing as backup. So we're looking at striker options, and we're looking at realistic striker options. And there were two names that I came across, and you guys might laugh about this, but the potential of these two players is absolutely huge. And that's what we're looking at. If we can get Unai Emery to coach these guys, go to the University, and get, him coaching these sorts of players. And the first player I'll talk about is a 20-year-old Serbian striker, a young Serbian striker. Where have we heard that before? Many years ago, we had a young Serbian striker called Savo Milosevic, for those of you that might remember and be old enough to remember him. He was a player that I was very, very fond of. That goal against Leeds in the it was a Coca-Cola Cup final in '96. The goals in Europe under Brian Little and John Gregory in that run against Atletico Madrid were absolutely, unforgettable for me. Obviously, he left on bad terms, but then kicked on his career in Spain and Italy as well. So there's another young Serbian striker doing the rounds at the moment that Millwall picked up only sort of last year for 2.8 million. 20-year-old Mihailo Ivanovic. He's the nephew of Branislav Ivanovic, the Chelsea cult hero, you can call him. And he is doing bits in the Championship. I've seen bits of him on YouTube, and he does look like a player. He looks like an Alexander Mitrovic type player, got similar sort of Serbian kind of attributes, but he also looks like he's got a really good touch and great feet for a big man. He's 6'3". He's got a touch of the Dimitar Berbatovs about him as well in terms of what he can do. I think this player is going to go on. He's only 20 years old. I think he's going to go on and play in the Premier League or in Bundesliga or Serie A, one of the big leagues. I think Wolverhampton are sniffing around him. As I said, Millwall picked him up for 2.8 million. Looks like Wolves are looking around sort of 12 to 13 million for this guy. I think he's someone that we should definitely be looking at. As I say, great feet, 20 years old, 6'3", 12 goals in 37 games, which doesn't sound amazing, but then Millwall are a sort of mid to lower ranking side in the Championship. But his finishes were good. I saw him score all types of goals. Left foot, right foot, headers. I saw him score a penalty. I saw him score free kick as well, a really good free kick as well. So this guy seems to have a lot of potential. And he could be that kind of Jean Duran, young, unknown quantity to come in as a backup, play a few games here and there, get some minutes off the bench as well, but get the training under sort of Unai Emery. He is 6'3", but he can move. He can run in behind. He's got a good, I wouldn't say he's rapid, but he's got a good turn of pace, and he's composed in front of goal. So he is someone that I think, I looked at the entire Championship, and I thought to myself, like, we've got Morgan Rogers from the Championship. We might need to look at that sort of route again, sort of get a rough diamond. And this guy here, Mihailo Ivanovic, looks absolutely spot on. And I think he would be someone that would be happy in that backup position, but can also play a little bit as well. And the potential. I mean, we signed him for 12, 13 million, train him up, give him opportunities. 2 or 3 years' time, he could be worth double that. Absolutely. So rather than looking at players who are coming to the end of their careers, like the Calvert-Lewins and things like that, and there's going to be no kind of resale value, this guy would give you huge resale value. If you haven't YouTubed him already, have a look at his clips from this season at Millwall. You'd be really impressed. I think he's got great potential, is what I would say. I'm not saying he's a finished article. He's going to come in and push Ollie Watkins for his first team place. Absolutely not. But he'll be a good, adequate backup for us. And I think under Unai, he would flourish. So that's the first player that I wanted to point out is Mihailo Ivanovic of Millwall, 20 years old Serbian striker. And then the second option I've got in your picture here is currently playing for Glasgow Rangers. He's a 22-year-old Moroccan striker called Hamza Igamane. Igamane, I think that's how you say it. He's only 5'9", so he's not massive in terms of his build. Obviously, Ivanovic 6'3", and Ivanovic would give you that hold-up ability as well, which I think might be important next season. I think sometimes we're going to be coming up against teams who are going to have that high press. And if teams are high pressing you, you can't play out from the back. You're going to need to play that ball into halfway, into the centre circle, and have someone that can hold up the ball. So again, another plus point of Ivanovic that he's 6'3" and he's good with his back to goal. But yeah, back onto Hamza Igamane, 22 Moroccan striker, only signed for Rangers last year for 1.7 million from the Moroccan league. Again, looks like a handful. Watch YouTube clips of him. This guy loves to shoot, even from distance. And we've missed a striker that can shoot from distance since Duran left, really. But he's got a good shooting technique. He's good on the ball. He is quick in behind. He's got skills, lovely little step overs and finishes, composed in front of goal. I think he could be someone that, again, we could kind of look at as that backup option. He's been linked with Lille. Obviously, they've lost Jonathan David recently, looking to replace him. And he's been rumoured for a transfer there, again, between sort of 12 and 15 million for this guy. And I think, again, he's someone that I think would be happy in that rotation basis to play for us. I think he's just pulled out of the Champions League games against Panathinaikos, which is wonderfully convenient because I think that would keep him eligible for Europa League. Or I'm not sure if the rule applies if you play in Champions League and you can still play Europa League. Not sure what's going on with that. Maybe someone can let me know in the comments. But it looks like he's trying to avoid cup tying himself, basically, in Europe, if that's the case. But he looks like a really, really good player. Again, someone who's available. I think Rangers are willing to sell. They've got the new manager, Russell Martin. He's had a look at the squad, and Igamane hasn't featured that much. There are talks about him wanting to leave. And also salary-wise, as I pointed out, with these Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Jackson, Ivanovic, his wages is 3,000 a week. Absolute peanuts. Obviously, to me and you, it's lots of money. But in the football world, it's peanuts, isn't it? 3,000 a week. You could say, right, here's 20 grand, 25 grand a week, which would be absolutely fine for us. Come and join us. And I'm sure that, Millwall would do business having signed him at 2.8 million. You slap 12, 13 million on the table. That's a massive profit for them. So they could do that. And Hamza Igamane, salary 7,000 a week at Rangers. So he's looking for improved contract, improved terms. He did sign a 5-year deal when he signed last year. So whether Rangers want to renegotiate his contract and offer him a bumper pay deal, I don't know. They've obviously other strikers I think they've recently brought in as well. So where does that leave him in the pecking order? I'm not a massive sort of Glasgow Rangers fan, so I don't know. But in terms of stats-wise, last season, 29 appearances, 11 goals. A lot of those appearances were from the bench, so he wasn't a regular starter. In the Europa League, 10 appearances, 4 goals. And overall in his career, 46 appearances, 16 goals. So I just think those two, realistic, low cost, low wages, backup options, sensible, realistic, potential is high as well to improve them and get a lot more profit off them in the future if we do want to sell them. But I think those two there are interesting options to have a look at. I'll be interested to hear about if there's anyone else that I've missed out. I didn't want to scour the continent. I didn't want to sell. I didn't want to go into the Brazilian league and pick up a 19-year-old and pick up someone from the Spanish league and 19, 20-year-old that needs to settle, learn language. These players would be ready to go. Ivanovic, that big Mitrovic type striker with a touch of Berbatov, a touch of Savo Milosevic about him. I think he would fit in straight away into a Premier League. Not saying week in, week out, absolutely not. But last 15, 20 minutes perhaps, maybe starting the odd here Carabao Cup game here and there. And again, the training and the coaching that he would get would really, really improve him. And then Hamza Igamane, again, similar. A little bit older at 22, but he's got the raw ability. His dribbling is good. His pace is good. Yes, he might need to work on his off the ball movement. Obviously, being a small player, how is he going to hold up the ball? How is he going to bring players into play? Obviously, the Scottish League and the Premier League are oceans apart. So, you're going to obviously have to train him up, but he's young enough to have that growth potential. So anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I just wanted to do a quick sort of, 15-minute chat on both of these and give my opinions on the backup striker options. Would love to hear your thoughts. Please do like, subscribe, comment as well. Is there anyone that I've forgotten? Is there anyone on the continent that you think that's going to be good? I mentioned in my previous video about Breel Brulo that we requested information on him. Wages are proving too high and he's not willing to back down apparently. So that looks like it's a non-starter, but requesting information is what clubs do every single day. So just because someone requests information doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere. It's just that. So, but I think these two, low cost, low salary, huge potential. Let me know your thoughts. Till the next one, guys, up the mighty Villa.